opportunity to appear before you today. The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July 13th is the most significant operational failure of the Secret Service in decades, and I am keeping him and his family in my thoughts. I would like to offer my sincerest condolences to the family of Corey Comparator, a former fire chief and a hero who was killed in this senseless shooting. I would also like to acknowledge those who were injured in Butler, David Dutch and James Copenhagen, and I wish them a speedy recovery. I would be remiss if I did not also extend my condolences on the passing of your colleague, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Ms. Jackson Lee was always engaged in the oversight of the Secret Service, and her passing is a great loss to this body.
So given that there was an increased threat to President Trump's life, was he provided a full security complement akin to what a sitting U.S. president would receive?
He was provided a full complement of security based on the threat assessment that we had.
That's not my question.
And the venue.
My question is, if he'd been the sitting president, would he have had the same security he had on July 13th, or would have been beefed up?
There is a difference between the sitting president
So your answer is he didn't.
and continuity of government and the response.
Appearance on Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we have something very special for you. I'm here with Sean. Welcome, Sean.
Hello.
As I'm sure all of you know by now, there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life.
Yep.
A number of days ago, and the Secret Service being responsible for the security. Naturally, Congress wanted to know how this happened. They called Kimberly.
Yep, Kimberly Cheadle
in to testify before Congress and ask her, what the heck, yo? And her answers were wholly unsatisfactory.
Yeah, her answers weren't good.
Yeah. There were a couple of interesting things that she mentioned in her testimony, if you want to call it testimony. But there were other very interesting events and very interesting questions and moments from the trial. So we got a lot to get through. So we're going to jump in. Here we go. So these are the first thing we got for you are the opening statements. Here, this is actually from James Comer.
Yep, the chair
from Kentucky, the chair
of the Oversight Committee.
The Oversight Committee. So here we go.
Today's hearing is for the American people who are seeking answers about the attempted assassination of President Trump. A little over a week ago, Americans watched in horror as a shooter attempted to assassinate President Donald J. Trump at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. The gunman nearly succeeded. The bullet that struck President Trump's head was less than an inch from taking his life.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
President Trump survived, but one rally-goer, Corey Comparator, tragically did not. Two others were seriously injured. It was a horrifying moment in American history. The horror was exceeded only by the bravery of the law enforcement agents who threw themselves in harm's way when shots were fired. The bravery of a crowd unwavering in its refusal to panic, and the bravery of a bloody President Trump refusing to run. While we give overwhelming thanks to the individual Secret Service agents who did their jobs under immense pressure, this tragedy was preventable. The Secret Service's protective mission is to protect U.S. and visiting world leaders and safeguard U.S. elections through protection of candidates and nominees. The Secret Service has a zero-fail mission, but it failed on July 13th and in the days leading up to the rally. The Secret Service has thousands of employees and a significant budget, but it has now become the face of incompetence. The committee has a long track record of providing oversight of the Secret Service. Our predecessors, both Jason Chaffetz and Elijah Cummings, among others, worked together to issue warnings and recommendations
They did.
to address obvious shortcomings in the agency's makeup and operations. Unfortunately, those warnings and recommendations have gone unheeded. A former president and current candidate for president was shot in the head by a sniper within 500 feet of the podium. This is unacceptable, and we are concerned the Secret Service lacks the proper management to keep protectees safe from bad actors. Americans demand answers, but they have not been getting them from the Secret Service. We are instead learning about new facts about the events surrounding the attempted assassination every day from whistleblowers and leaks. Americans demand accountability, but no one is yet to be fired for this historic failure. Today's witness, Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle, is here under subpoena to answer questions about how the agency failed President Trump and the victims who attended the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Can't go? Do this to clear out stuck poop fast. On
Kind of a
It is my firm belief,
Yeah.
Director Cheadle, that you should resign. However, in complete defiance, Director Cheadle has maintained she will not tender her resignation. Therefore, she will answer questions today from members of this committee seeking to provide clarity to the American people about how these events
she did end up
were allowed
resigning
to
today.
transpire.
Thankfully.
We will ask these questions because the Secret Service and its parent agency, the Department of Homeland.
Okay. It goes on, but that's the main point. And yes, she did resign. However, there's still a lot of questions out there. So the next clip we have for you is Representative Raskin. He's the ranking member from
Maryland.
Maryland. Democrat, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's at 9:53.
Comer. Elijah Cummings, whose beautiful visage looks down upon us, taught us that the way to find common ground in a crisis is to look for the higher ground. And last week, Chairman Comer and I came together to reach for that higher ground. We made a joint statement condemning the mass shooting and assassination attempt against former President Trump as a grave assault on our democracy. As we wrote, "We are united in condemning all political violence." I join the good chairman in expressing condolences to the family of Corey Comparatori and in sending healing wishes to the wounded victims also of this atrocious act of violence.
And I will say this. We've seen some pretty disgusting stuff being posted on social media by some left-leaning people who detest Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see any of that in this.
No,
It
didn't.
There was professionalism. There was concern. There were well wishes for the people that were injured and died during the attack.
Yeah.
Overall, I was like, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Some are calling it a miracle that former President Trump escaped this
It
AR-15
was.
attack. Unlike so many thousands of our fellow citizens who have been killed or seriously wounded
Here we go.
in other AR-15
course.
shootings.
Yeah, they brought that up.
Of
Whether
course.
this miracle is of divine providence or of an adventitious nature will be up to each of us to ponder, but our job in Congress
What?
is not simply to marvel at miracles or count on good luck, but to act as public policy legislators to do whatever we can to prevent future political violence, attempted assassinations, and mass shootings.
That was a weird statement.
And there's more members that will bring up.
Oh, I'm
the
sure.
gun.
Of course, because never let a tragedy go to waste. Well, never let a crisis go to waste.
Rob Emanuel.
Yeah. Come on, man. Like, nobody cares right now, except the left, about an opportunity to push gun control. Here's a very simple way this could have been prevented. Secret Service did their damn job. Doesn't matter what this tragedy could have been just as easily perpetrated with a single shot rifle or a non AR-15 rifle. I've seen regular hunting rifles that do a heck of a lot more damage than any AR-15 I've ever seen. We're not going to get into all that BS. The point is, these people never, ever let the opportunity to jump on the chance to push their agenda. It's insane. Anyway, our next clip is Kim Cheadle's full opening remarks. 1851. If you guys want to find this is C-SPAN on YouTube.
Yep.
1851, and we're going to the 2529 so that you can get the full joy of her opening remarks. They were
For your opening statement.
Here we go.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Comer, Ranking Member Raskin, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Kimberly Cheadle, and I'm the Director of the United States Secret Service. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today.
DEI hire.
The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July 13th is the most significant operational failure of the Secret Service in decades, and I am keeping him and his family in my thoughts. I would like to offer my sincerest condolences to the family of Corey Comparator, a former fire chief and a hero who was killed in this senseless shooting. I would also like to acknowledge those who were injured in Butler, David Dutch, and James Copenhagen, and I wish them a speedy recovery. I would be remiss if I did not also extend my condolences on the passing of your colleague, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Ms. Jackson Lee was always engaged in the oversight of the Secret Service, and her passing is a great loss to this body.
Now, I'm going to pause it there for just a moment. I played that clip at the very beginning of the video for a specific reason. Do you guys find it odd that, number one, there was this massive failure from the Secret Service? Sheila Jackson Lee, she said, was always very engaged in Secret Service protection oversight, right? Then suddenly, Sheila Jackson Lee passes away from cancer, of which I had never heard any mention of cancer with her whatsoever.
Me either. I follow the news really closely.
Yeah.
And I didn't even
my go-to for national news. He's always tuned in.
Yeah, and I didn't even know she had cancer.
I'm just saying.
I think it's a coincidence, but
how many coincidences before things become mathematically impossible? Let's also bear in mind that, okay, Jackson Lee was part of the oversight committee, allegedly, just passed. It's perfectly normal for her to bring up the passing of a colleague. However, real quick, before we get back, how many agencies do we lose faith in?
that's true, a lot. FBI.
FBI, CIA, FDA, NIH. Are there any agencies that are worthy anymore that aren't either completely inept, completely corrupt, or otherwise not doing the job they were designed for the American people? Like, are there any good agencies anymore?
I can't think of any.
Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't tell people, you have to show them. And I am seeing firsthand the disillusionment with, I thought, at least the Secret Service.
I knew there was secret problems in the Secret Service.
Did you?
Before this, yeah.
Yeah?
There was hearings that they did back in like 2014,
Okay.
talking about all the problems with the Secret Service.
Interesting.
We could go through it if I could find it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Remember, very recently, apparently one of Harris's Secret Service agents lost their entire mind. Do you remember
Really?
that? Yeah, you didn't see that?
I don't think I did.
She like threw sanitary napkin tampons at people.
Really?
Oh yeah, she went completely bonkers.
Huh.
Yeah, check it out. Look it up. We'll let him look that up. If you guys want to look it up after this, do so because it's buck wild. Anyway, going back to it.
The Secret Service's solemn mission is to protect our nation's leaders. On July 13th, we failed. As a director of the United States Secret Service, I take full responsibility for any security lapse of our agency. We are fully cooperating with ongoing investigations. We must learn what happened, and I will move heaven and earth to ensure that an incident like July 13th does not happen again. Let me state unequivocally, nothing I have said should be interpreted to place blame for this failure on our federal, state, or local law enforcement partners who supported the Secret Service in Butler. We could not do our job without them. We rely on the relationships built over years of working together to secure events and conduct investigations. Our agents, officers, and support personnel understand that every day we are expected to sacrifice our lives to execute a no-fail mission. As witnessed on July 13th, our special agents shielded former President Trump with their own bodies on stage while shots were being fired.
After he got shot, you idiot.
Selflessly willing to make the ultimate sacrifice without hesitation. I am proud beyond words of the actions taken by the former president's detail, the counter-sniper team who neutralized the gunman, and the tactical team who was prepared to act. I will be transparent as possible when I speak with you, understanding, though, at times that I may be limited in providing a thorough
Yeah,
response
she was very
in
limited.
this open setting due to
Well, as you watch
associated
this.
risks with sharing highly sensitive protective methodologies. I do not want to inadvertently provide you today with inaccurate information. Since January 1st, 2024, the Secret Service has successfully secured over 7,500 sites. Every protective advance comes with its own set of challenges and requires a customized mitigation strategy, including specific assets. Security plans are multi-layered, providing 360 degrees of protection.
Yeah, that's your
These
job.
layers include personnel, technical, and tactical assets, which are a force multiplier for our protective posture.
Like
During
they don't
every
know.
advance, we attempt to strike a balance between enabling the protectee to be visible and our protective requirements to be secure. I know this because I have spent 29 years in this agency. I came up through the ranks. I've secured events for every president since President Clinton, supervised on Vice President Cheney's detail, led our training center, oversaw all of the investigations and protective visits in the state of Georgia, supervised on Vice President Biden's detail, and the agency's entire protective mission during the Trump administration. The comprehensive advance process involves collaborative planning between our Secret Service, the protectee's staff, local law enforcement partners, and the level of security provided for the former president increased well before the campaign and has been steadily increasing as threats evolve. The security plan included a full assessment of the Butler Farm showgrounds to identify security vulnerabilities and craft a security plan for the protectee, attendees, and the public.
Okay.
Immediately following the assassination attempt, I directed the activation of my crisis center. I assembled my executive team to begin surging more protective resources to the former president and to ensure the wellness of our people post-incident, all while securing an active crime scene.
And
I immediately
No, go ahead.
the crazy thing is that Iran has been threatening. They said on the news came out that like they knew that Iran was going to try to assassinate Trump in the next few months.
Right.
Why didn't she have this protection before the rally?
Exactly. The level. Here's the thing, right? I was gonna wait till she was done talking.
Okay.
But no, that's perfectly fine. So she's talking about her years of experience and how she did this and she did that. Great, wonderful. You've never been director before. This is your failure. You obviously dropped the ball. Period. End of story. If there was an individual that was in charge for the site, right, that there was a failure, tell us. That's what the American people want to know. Who was in charge? Who decided an unguarded roof was perfectly fine?
Yep.
I heard recently that apparently one of the several reasons why they didn't secure that rooftop was because it was hot.
I've heard that.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What a ridiculous reason. Oh no, I might sweat a little.
And that comes
That's
up
your-
during the hearing.
That's your job.
Uh-huh.
Ordered a reevaluation of the Republican National Convention security plan, and I increased the security posture in the National Capital Region for all permanent protectees and sites. At the same time, I initiated a mission assurance investigation within our agency. I have instructed my
cleaned up.
team that all necessary resources will be dedicated to investigating these matters. We will not rest until we have explored every option, and we will leave no stone unturned.
Bullshit. Look, I don't have any like smoking gun or anything, but I will say this. I find it very, very interesting that the former now director of the Secret Service was good friends with the Bidens, conveniently left a rooftop empty while there were active threats from Iran.
There was.
I'm yet thinking.
And now there's rumors that he was talking to people from overseas. They won't announce who it was or where, but he was talking to people overseas.
There is also a disturbing connection between the shooter and BlackRock,
Yeah.
the company that owns everything.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
He was on a commercial.
He was on a commercial, but there's even more.
Yeah.
There's a lot of facts are still coming out. I like to present you with facts, but I will tell you there is a lot of very, very disturbing information and connections that are being uncovered with the shooter and their connection to not only BlackRock, but allegedly overseas accounts, communications with individuals overseas. There's a whole lot.
And hopefully they did a more security for Pompeo, because Iran wants to try to get Pompeo too. Just saying.
No.
But I want to be clear. I am not waiting for these investigations to be completed prior to making changes. Over the past 2 weeks, we successfully led the planning and execution of the 75th NATO Summit and the Republican National Convention. Over the next few months, we will implement security plans for the Democratic National Convention, the United Nations General Assembly, and have already begun planning and coordinating the 2025 inauguration.
One more.
It is now more important than ever for the men and women of the Secret Service to remain resilient and to focus on what is necessary to carry out our critical mission. Our agency needs to be adequately resourced in order to serve our current mission requirements and anticipate future requirements. The Secret Service currently protects 36 individuals on a daily basis, as well as world leaders who visit the United States, like Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who arrived in Washington, D.C. today. The coming years will bring an unprecedented heavy protection tempo. I have no doubt that the processes that I have implemented during my tenure as director, in addition to my nearly 30 years of experience in this agency, have positioned the Secret Service to be stronger. Our mission is not political. It is literally a matter of life and death.
It is.
And the tragic events on July 13th remind us of that. I have full confidence in the men and women of the Secret Service. They are worthy of our support in executing our protective mission. I will now answer any questions that the committee may have.
That's funny. No,
She didn't.
She really doesn't. Look, this was a colossal screw up. But the question is, if it was a colossal screw up by mistake, or if it was a colossal screw up intentionally. I'm leaning towards the latter. I really am. I just don't trust these people at all. Anyone connected to the echelons of power, right? The hall of power, whether it be Congress, any of these people, I have found are not worthy of our support and trust. I used to think, look, most of these agencies, which I've said, I can't think of a single like
No.
functioning agency anymore. The next individual is Representative Comer, and
He gets to
gives,
question now.
what's that?
It's the questioning.
Yeah, we're going to questioning now, and I'm going to say this before we go any further. I've seen clips. I have not seen all of it, but I have never in my life seen a more useless witness in front of Congress.
Yeah. And-
This is an absolute disgrace.
And members of both parties were getting frustrated with her.
Let's dig in. Here we go.
Thank you very much, Director Cheadle. We'll now begin our 5 minutes questions, and I will begin. Just for the record, the Secret Service has an annual budget of around $3.1 billion, and I believe around 8,000 employees. Is that correct?
Yes.
$3.1 billion and how
Yeah.
many employees?
I think he said 800.
$1 billion, and I believe around 8,000 employees. Is that
8,000.
correct?
8,000 employees, $3 billion they have to play with. So I read something interesting, right? So I don't know if you guys heard, but there were 2 motorcycle supervisors in Pennsylvania who were part of the Trump motorcade, right? They were reassigned shortly after. Why? Because allegedly these 2 particular supervisors did not have permission to join the Trump motorcade, even though they were supervisors. They,
Wow.
yeah. So what they did was they yanked them off. Now, during this investigation or whatever they're doing with these 2 motorcycle cops, basically what I think is they found out there was a Trump rally and said their supervisors, they're like, dude, I'm being part of that because I love me some Trump.
Could be.
That's what I do, right? And they got in trouble for it. But during the so-called investigation, right, it turns out that the vast majority of the so-called Secret Service protection is them coming into town and throwing a bunch of money around, hiring people for overtime, doing this, doing that with the local police departments. Secret Service themselves do very little. So $3 billion.
Yep.
What?
And she says that's not enough.
Yeah, and they're here because they want more money. That's not enough money. $3 billion isn't enough to protect, what'd she say, 54 people?
34, I think she
Something
said.
like a handful, like a few dozen people. Is it a lot of work? I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's a lot of work to protect someone 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
$3 billion is enough money to do that.
Yeah.
Unreal.
What I could do with
Correct.
$3 billion.
Right? Right. Even if I had to run security, I do.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, there were many security failures on the day of the attempted assassination and leading up to that day. Let's start with the building that the shooter used to shoot President Trump from. At any point Saturday, did the Secret Service have an agent on top of that roof?
Sir, I'm sure, as you can imagine, that we are just 9 days out from this incident, and there's
Yeah.
still an ongoing investigation.
That was
So
one
So
of
I
her
wanna make
favorite
sure
things
that
to
any
say during
information
the
that we are
hearing.
providing to you is
you
factual.
can't, okay. Why did the Secret Service not, can you answer why the Secret Service didn't place a single agent on the roof?
We are still looking into the advanced process and the decisions that were made.
Well, okay. Wasn't that building within
She
the
is so
perimeter
useless.
that should be secured? Do we agree with that?
The building was outside of the perimeter on the day of the visit. But again, that is one of the things that during the investigation, we want to take a look at and determine whether or not other decisions should have been made.
One of the things that you said, I believe in an interview, that there wasn't an agent on the roof because it was a sloped roof. Is that normal? And do you fear that immediately creates an opportunity for future would-be assassins to look for a slanted roof? I mean, this is a huge question that every American has. Why wasn't a Secret Service agent on the roof? And there have been
I have seen countless memes.
I have too.
I covered a few before, but I have seen countless memes about Secret Service and sloped roofs. It's sad that that's become a thing.
Been reports that agents were supposed to be on the roof, but it was hot that day and they didn't want to be on the roof. Can you answer any of those questions, Director?
So I appreciate you asking me that question, Chairman. I should have been more clear in my answer when I spoke about where we placed personnel in that interview. What I can tell you is that there was a plan in place to provide overwatch, and we are still looking into responsibilities and who was going to provide overwatch. But the Secret Service in general, not speaking specifically to this incident, when we are providing overwatch, whether that be through counter snipers or other technology, prefer to have sterile rooftops.
Did the Secret Service use any drones?
Wait, sterile rooftops. That's what she said, right?
Yeah, she said sterile.
Like clean?
I think that's what she meant.
What could that mean? Flat? I don't see how the word sterile could be used to mean flat.
My guess is when she says sterile, it means safe, like
But
secured.
Yeah. Okay. That might make sense. Safe, right?
I think that's what she meant.
So then wouldn't it make sense to make sure that there was an individual up there, or at least focused on the roof to ensure that no individual was able to obtain? Dude,
It would, yeah.
this entire thing is a cluster. It just is. It's unbelievable that these people are like unreal. Okay, here we go. Wow.
For surveillance that day?
So again, I'm not going to get into
Service use any drones for surveillance that day?
So again, I'm not going to get into specifics of that day in itself, but there are times during a security plan that the Secret Service does deploy an asset like a drone.
There were reports that the shooter used a drone just a few hours before the rally start time. Is that accurate?
I have heard those same reports, and again, am waiting for the final report.
Do you know, if you can't answer the question, that's your answer. But can you answer this? Do you know? I'm not asking yes or no, but do you know if the shooter used a drone before the shooting?
That information has been passed to us from
That's
the
not
FBI.
what she.
Right.
How many Secret Service agents were assigned to President Trump on the day of the rally?
Again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of the numbers of personnel that we had there, but we
I'm
feel
not going to answer your question.
that there was a
No.
sufficient number of agents assigned.
There are
I'm sure you
reports
did.
that several agents assigned to the rally on July 13th were temporary agents not
Yep.
normally assigned to
Yep.
President Trump. Is that accurate?
What I can tell you is that the agents that were assigned to former President Trump are Secret Service agents that provide close protection to him, and that was what was actual on that day.
No. There were a couple of those, yes. But as we've seen from multiple videos, the DEI hire who couldn't even find her holster was a joke. There is no way that inept moron is a Secret Service agent all the time protecting Donald Trump. There's no way, because I've never seen such a moron when it comes to weapons. Like, dude, really? You're supposed to be a trained Secret Service agent, for Christ's sake, not even a trained federal agent. Because FBI, let's face it, FBI is a joke now, unfortunately, at the upper levels. But you should be able to put your gun away.
And there's rumors that those people that you're talking about were
Yep.
from the Homeland Security Department.
Bingo, yeah.
Okay, you heard that.
Yes, I heard that they were pulled from Homeland
Yeah.
Security, which we know who's in charge of that joke of an agency now.
How
How many temporary agents were there that day?
Quite frequently, sir, during campaign events, the Secret Service utilizes agents from HSI or the Department of
But
Homeland Security
you don't
to
know how
help
many, or you can't
supplement
answer?
our plan.
Have the investigators reconstructed the shooter's precise movements over the past days, weeks, and months?
So
We-
again,
We need to have confidence that if the FBI is leading this investigation, that they're leading a credible
they're
investigation.
doing their
Some
job.
of us sitting up here today that don't have a lot of confidence in the FBI.
Yeah.
So I will
Bingo.
repeat the question. Have the investigators reconstructed the shooter's precise moments over the past days, weeks, and months?
I understand your question, Chairman, and I share your concerns about wanting to make sure that we have factual information. The FBI is conducting a criminal investigation. The Secret Service is conducting an internal investigation. There are a number of OIG investigations, and there is the external investigation that the president.
Last question for me. Before July 13th,
I have no idea.
had the Trump detail requested additional resources?
What I can tell you is that for the event on July 13th, the details that were the assets that were requested for that day were given.
Okay. My time has expired. Chair now recognizes ranking member asking for 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, so the follow-up is going to be Representative Raskin, which is the ranking member.
Yep.
He's from Maryland. So her claim is that every single resource that was requested was provided.
And I heard that's not the case, and I don't believe it either.
Exactly. So if she can't even get that information correct, why should we believe anything that this individual claims?
Fair point.
I mean, every single answer she gives, it seems like, is either dodging, lying, or outright refusing to answer.
Uh-huh. She's definitely hiding something.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, before she went up in front of Congress, I was like, well, maybe this was maybe people just dropped the ball. Because sometimes that does happen. Sometimes people make a bad decision. Sometimes they go, we've never had any real problems other than a couple of blue hairs yelling. We're fine, right? We're just going to stay inside the building instead of on top of the building. I am convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt after watching her that there was some sort of orchestrated effort, or some sort of plan, something to make sure that a shooter had a clean shot. Now, whether there were other people involved, because there's a lot of weird information coming out about the water tower, about the agents that were in the building allegedly taking shots. I don't know any of that. What I will say is I am convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that there was a plan in place from high levels to ensure that Donald Trump did not walk away from that rally.
Mr. Chairman, it's been reported that before former President Trump got up on the stage at around 6 p.m. on Saturday, July 13th, that the local police had identified and even photographed a man who was acting suspiciously. And this man, who turned out to be the gunman, had been flagged as a potential threat. Is that accurate?
What I can say is that the individual was identified as suspicious.
So he was known to be suspicious before former President Trump took the stage.
That is the information I have received.
Why was he allowed to take the stage with a suspicious
Good question.
person having been identified in the crowd?
So I appreciate the question. And
I'm gonna because I suck at my job. There's the answer, because I was a DEI hire who should still be guarding Pepsi's.
I'd like to make 2 points. If the detail had been past information that there was a threat, the detail would never have brought the former president out onto stage. That is what we do.
Okay. So what we have here is a failure to communicate. That's what she's saying. That
Claiming.
information was never passed along to the detail. I call bullshit.
And
that's
that
what
is
she
who we are.
claims.
We are charged with protecting all of our protectees.
So you distinguish between someone who is suspicious and someone who's threatening, is that
I
right?
do. There are a number of times at protective events where suspicious people are identified, and those individuals have to be investigated and determined what is it that identifies that person as suspicious.
So did you deny a request for additional resources that had been made by the Trump campaign?
There were no assets denied for that event in Butler on the 13th.
Really? That's interesting, because all the reports say otherwise.
Uh-huh.
See, so you're saying there were requests made for additional assistance for other specific events rather than for the campaign as a whole, is that right?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
Well, You seem to say that there were not additional resources requested for that event. And forgive me for being unfamiliar with this. Is it requested event by event, or is it requested just in general for the campaign?
So if I can explain the advance process, when an event or a venue is identified by, in this case, campaign staff, then the campaign staff works together with Secret Service agents who go out and conduct an advance. Generally, that is a 5-day time period where those discussions are had about what the perimeter is going to look like, what the size of the event is, what the venue is, and then from there, there is a request made to mitigate potential risk and threat. And I'm saying that on that day, the requests that were pushed forward were granted.
So the Secret Service did not know that the gunman actually had a weapon before President Trump was allowed to get up on the stage?
To the best of our knowledge and the facts that we have at this point, that is correct.
So can you answer this question, which I think is on the mind of most Americans thinking about this? How can a 20-year-old with his father's AR-15 assault weapon climb onto a roof with it?
An AR-15 is not an assault weapon. These idiots can't even give a definition of what a so-called assault weapon is. These people are stupid. They are stupid. They don't know anything about guns, and it infuriates me because they're morons.
The direct 150-yard line of sight to the speaker's podium without the Secret Service or local police stopping him.
So again, sir, I will say we are 9 days out from this event,
And
I would like to know those.
And what she's saying is in 9 days, right? 9 days. They either don't know or they know and don't want to tell us. I think it's the latter.
That's what I think it is.
Answers as well, which is why we are going through these investigations to be able to determine that fully.
Okay. It's been reported that the shooter was not carrying a driver's license or any form of identification. They had no idea who he was, but then he was quickly identified, I think within 30 minutes, by using the serial number on the AR-15 under a tracing system that is now controversial. Some people say we should get rid of it. Some people want to keep it. But is that right, that the serial number was the key information which led to the identification of the shooter?
That is my understanding, sir, yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's pause it here real quick because I want to talk about this just very briefly. So there are people who believe that the government should be able to track every firearm that's sold in this country. What do you think about that?
No.
Okay, so you're against a government database.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to tell you, I am wholeheartedly against the government being able to track anything I do.
Yep.
Whether it's weapons, this whole ghost gun bullshit is simply, I'm going to tell you what a ghost gun is, and then I'm going to tell you what they claim it is, right? A ghost gun is a lower without a serial number on it. Okay, there's no serial number on it.
Okay.
What makes it a, quote, ghost gun is the fact that they can't track it, right? Can you track screwdrivers? Can you track knives?
No.
Can you track cleavers? No. There's no reason a tool should be able to be tracked because that's all these things are tools. You can kill someone just as effectively, though a bit more bloody, with a screwdriver. I've seen it. I worked at a prison.
Oh, yeah, you did.
I have seen people damaged in ways that are incomprehensible, and no guns were used. Prisoners in prison make their own weapons. I've seen Jolly Ranchers. I've seen toilet paper.
Wow.
Did you know you could make a knife out of toilet paper?
Wow.
Yeah, you get it wet, let it dry, get it wet, add layers, let it dry, sharpen it. It's a lot more effective than you would think.
Probably takes a lot of time.
It does. That's all they have in
That's
prison.
true, they do. Yeah, that's true.
They do. They got plenty of time.
If an American citizen were just to stop you and say, Director Cheadle, we support your work to the tune of billions of dollars and thousands of employees, what went wrong? What would you say?
Again, knowing that we're 9 days out, I would say, as I have said
Yeah,
from
she
the
can't
very
even
outset,
admit.
I accept responsibility for this tragedy. We are going to look into how this happened, and we are going to take corrective action to ensure that it never happens again.
Well, I appreciate that, and I hope you will act with vigor and focus and intensity, and it seems you understand the gravity and solemnity of this to the American people. Millions and millions of Americans don't feel safe with all the AR-15s out there. We thought at least the
Here we
President
go.
of the United States or a
Yeah.
former President of the United States would be safe, but now that's not even clear. Mr. Chairman, I yield back to you.
Gentlemen,
Okay, so again, the left is going to use this any way they can
Yep.
to push for your rights to be infringed because that's all they give a damn about. They don't care that the president almost died. I'm going to tell you, if you pay attention to their social media, they have whined and cried and yelled that the bullet wasn't more to the right. These people are sick. They are sick.
To be fair, not really anybody in Washington has said that, but other people you're referring to, right?
Yeah, plenty of people.
Okay.
Plenty of other
Not people in office.
I will say they've been very careful. They've been very careful on their social media, but there's no shortage of other psychos who have said gleefully that they wish that
I've seen it.
Yeah. Sick. people.
Yes.
Look, do not comply. It's just that simple. With the Supreme Court ruling that these 3-letter agencies are unconstitutional, I fully expect some massive wake up coming soon because basically all of the EPA, the ATF, all of these 3-letter agencies that have been delegated responsibilities reserved for Congress have been essentially stripped of their powers by the Supreme Court, who said, yeah, that's not constitutional.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens because Congress likes to use those people as like a crutch so that they don't have to do their job.
So they don't have to do their job. And bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, and this is something that I really wish we'd see more of, Marbury v. Madison declared any law repugnant to the Constitution is null and void. I got news for the federal government. That includes any and all gun laws, because shall not be infringed is very, very, very clear. Very clear. And I would like to see some justices with a pair that are willing to beyond Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas seems to be one of the few that welcome Second Amendment cases so that they can be overturned because they're ridiculous. But you're never going to see these people allow a crisis to go to waste. They're going to, oh, people don't feel safe, then fucking move. You're in the wrong country to believe if law-abiding American citizens were the problem, if gun owners in general, in mass, were the problem, you would know. There would be, put it this way, you'd have a real insurrection, not
A riot.
not a riot or a police action or whatever you want to classify January 6th actually as, because it was not an insurrection. Somebody had posted something that I thought was really, really interesting. It was a very, very short statement, and it said, if you believe that January 6th was an actual erection or insurrection, it was an erection, all right, for the left. They were so giddy. They were anyway. If there had been an actual insurrection on January 6th, then they'd still be in charge. It's that simple.
It wasn't.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't. All
It was a riot.
Back to these people. Okay, so the next individual is Representative Jim Jordan from Ohio.
Years back. Chair, now recognize the Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Mr. Jordan from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, were you guessing or lying? The day after President Trump is shot, Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi said, quote, "The assertion that a member of the former president's security team requested additional security resources that the U.S. Secret Service or the Department of Homeland Security rebuffed is absolutely false." The next day, Secretary Mayorkas said, "That is an unequivocally false assertion. We had not received any request for additional security measures that were rebuffed."
Okay.
But 5 days later, the Washington Post said this: "Top officials repeatedly rejected requests from Donald Trump's security detail for more
Yep.
personnel." The next day, the New York Times said this: "Mr. Guglielmi acknowledged that the Secret Service had turned down some requests for additional federal security assets for Mr. Trump's detail." So which is it? Because both statements can't be true. Were you guessing or lying when you said you didn't turn down requests from President Trump's detail?
Neither, sir, and I appreciate the question.
Well, what were you doing? Because those statements don't jive.
So what I
Right.
can tell
So
you
what's
is that
true?
for the event in Butler, there were no requests that were denied. As far as requests,
Well, maybe they got tired of asking. Maybe you turned them down so darn much, they said, not worth asking.
That's
How
a
many
good
times did you
point.
turn them down ahead of that?
I think that it is important to
Oh.
distinguish between what some people may view as a denial of an asset or a request.
Well, is
does
Mr.
not-
Guglielmi your spokesperson? He said he acknowledged the Secret Service had turned down some requests. I'm asking how many?
A denial of a request does not equal a vulnerability.
Well, tell me what it is.
There are a number of ways that threats and risks can be mitigated with a number of different assets, whether that be through personnel, whether that be through technology or other resources.
Well, tell the committee which it was. They asked for additional help in some form or another. You told them no. How many times did you tell them no, and what'd you tell them no to?
That's a good question.
Again, I cannot speak to specific incidents, but I can tell you in general terms, the Secret Service is judicious with their resources based on
What does some request mean? How many times?
That's a good
Some
question.
indicate request is plural. So more than once they asked
Yep.
for additional help and you turned them down. What did they ask for and how many times did you turn them down? Pretty basic questions.
Yeah.
So again, without having all of the details in front of me, sir, what I can tell you is that there are
You
times.
didn't get briefed on how many times you turned down the Trump detail when they asked for additional
Right.
help?
I'm sorry.
You didn't get briefed on that before you came to this hearing, knowing you were going to get asked that question?
What I can tell you is that in generic terms, when people,
Did you see that smirk
Uh-huh.
on her face? That little attitude. Here, I'm gonna back it up and show you guys again. Watch her lips. There's this smirk.
Going to get asked that question?
what I can tell you is that in
Look at that.
generic.
I saw
Did
that.
you see that? That little lip curl?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
I never noticed that before.
terms, when
That question?
what I can tell you is that in generic
Look at that. Whoa. I haven't
Uh-huh.
seen anybody else mention that.
No.
terms.
Wonder if Kim
when
Jordan noticed
people-
that.
When,
I
when
don't know.
details make a request, there are times that there are alternate ways to cover off on that threat or that
But
risk.
that's not what he said. He said they were denied certain requests, some requests. This is your spokesperson, not me talking. This is the Secret Service talking. And what a change from absolutely false, unequivocally false to, oh,
Yep.
by the way, there were some times where we didn't give them what they wanted. That's a
Right.
huge change in 5
Uh-huh.
days.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can't answer how many times you did that, that's pretty darn frustrating, not just for me, but for the country.
Yes.
I hear your frustration.
Let me ask you this. Were any of those requests denied to President Trump's detail after you knew about the Iranian threat?
What I can tell you, again, I don't know the specifics, is that there are times when we can fill a request. It doesn't necessarily have to be with a Secret Service asset or resource. We can fill that request with locally available assets.
You
and
spoke to anyone at the
resources.
White House since July 13th?
Yes, I have.
Who'd you talk to?
I have briefed the president and the vice president.
Talk to the First Lady?
No, I have not.
Talk to the White House staff? Anyone in the White House communications?
No, I have not.
Have you talked to the counter sniper who took the shot that took out the bad guy?
Yes, I have.
And can you tell us about that conversation?
I would not want to reveal conversations that I've had with my employees.
But that's exactly the kind of information the American people want to know. American people who pay your salary.
I
Yes.
understand this is an ongoing investigation.
You know what? I'm going to say this. I have my issues with Jim Jordan, right? But he does make for really good viral videos.
He's very
These
effective.
great sound clips, right? He asks some great questions. I just wish he would be more action oriented to do something about it. But he does ask some really good questions, and that was a phenomenal one.
Uh-huh.
The American people pay your salary. We want answers, especially MAGA. We want answers. Because guess what? It doesn't matter who's in charge. We, American people, still pay taxes. We still pay the bills. Doesn't matter if it's resident ice cream or the most badass president I've ever seen in my entire life, dude. Like, fight.
Yeah.
How fucking dope was that, man? I mean, come on. Did you see even what's his name? Facebook guy. The robot. Zuckerberg. Did you see his interview?
I did.
Where even Zuckerberg's like, that was like the most badass thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
He did.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Sink
Uger or whatever his name is from
Young
the Young Turks.
Yeah.
He said the same thing. He was like, that was just badass.
Who's all doing the investigating at Secret Service? I know the Inspector General, but is there also an internal investigation in addition to the Inspector General?
We are conducting a mission assurance investigation internally, yes.
You know what it looks like, Director? It looks like you won't answer some pretty basic questions. It looks like you got a 9% raise and you cut corners when it came to protecting one of the most important individuals, most well-known individuals on the planet. A former president, likely the guy who's going to be the next president. Looks like you guys were cutting corners. That's what it looks like to me. Is that true?
I am here today because I want to answer questions, but I also want to be cautious.
You might want to, but you haven't answered. I don't think you've answered one question from the chairman, the ranking member, or me. Well, we got a lot of other people asking. We'll see if your record improves. But right now, you haven't answered, I don't think, any questions.
No,
it doesn't.
It's a joke. The entire thing is like a circus, man. It's like you allegedly are in charge, right? You supposedly have all the information at your fingertips, but you're not going to answer anything. Why? Because you can tell she wanted him dead. She was more than prepared to show up in front of Congress and admit a failure and fall on her sword, because I believe that's how it was set up. I think she was supposed to be the fall guy / woman, right? But they were absolutely planning for him to not be around after that rally. That's what I believe, and nothing these people have done or said has changed my opinion. As a matter of fact, I've only come to that conclusion after watching this. Holy cow, man. Like, what? So I need your help. All right. So the next clip we have is Connolly.
Yep. From Virginia.
I wrote down the wrong end time. Can you look again and tell me it is from 103:10
to 108:21.
Okay. Yeah, we got a stupid ad. And again, I'm not paying for YouTube Premium, so forget it.
There you go.
All right, so here we go to, what did you say, 108?
It goes from 103:10
Okay.
to 108:21.
All right.
And it's Representative Connolly from Virginia.
Chairman, well, I hope the American people do appreciate the incredible daily risks Secret Service agents take on our behalf. You mentioned there are 36 regular clients you've got that you protect constantly.
36 for $3 billion. They got to protect 36 people all the time. Dude, do you know how much security I could set up for $3 billion? I'd have tanks. I'd have planes. You don't need them all the time. Just rent them. What the hell, dude? $3 billion, have F-22s coming over. You just got to pay for the fuel. It's all U.S. government assets. Dude.
But I was participating in the NATO summit just 2 weeks ago we had 32 heads of government and heads of state, plus visiting heads of state and heads of government.
Okay.
Presumably, you provided protection for all of them.
That is correct.
Just saying.
Just saying what? I'm not sure what his point was, other than good. You do a lot. Do you see something else, or maybe he hasn't said it yet? I'm just saying. What? I'm just saying what? That they provide 36 people plus visiting heads of state. That's the mission of the Secret Service, dipshit. We know that.
That's your job.
That's
just wait. This guy's gonna get you riled up. That's why. That's why I picked him.
You knew he was gonna get me worked up, huh?
Just wait.
Where's this dipshit from again?
Virginia. He's been in Congress for a while.
Imagine that. Look at those eyes.
Help us understand, however, I will stipulate that there's an ongoing investigation. You don't want to go into too much detail on that until you've been able to ascertain all the facts and analyze what they mean. You can understand, however, the anxiety we and the American public have about how could this happen and how can we ensure it can't recur. Now, there are some things my friends on one particular side of the aisle don't really want to talk about. Like,
here we go.
AR-15.
Oh, for fuck's sake,
guy. 20-year-old or anybody for that matter.
Listen, I know it burns you, but you only have to be 18 years old to buy a rifle. Take it up with the founders, dude. That's how it's set up.
Didn't they change it to 21 for some guns?
21 for handguns.
Handguns, okay.
It used to be 18 for everything.
It should be 18.
It should be 18 for everything. Because if you're old enough to go and die for this country for oil in some sandy, faraway place, you are old enough to buy protection for yourself. It's the most ridiculous bullshit I've ever seen in my life. However, I understand that the uneducated about guns, the untrained, they see what they see on TV and they think all these things are out there, right? You see like Arnold Schwarzenegger go into the jungle with a minigun and you think your average Joe can go get that. And many times they are lied to and taught that AR-15s, like what's her name that said they're as heavy as 10 boxes and they fire 50 caliber bullets. And I'm pretty sure it was Jackson Lee who said all that idiotic stuff.
It might have been Maxine Waters.
It might, it might have been Maxine Waters. Either way,
I'm not sure.
Either way, they lied to you constantly. So yeah, we're gonna get, and I knew this was coming, and this is there. They've been salivating for another opportunity to try to come after your constitutionally protected rights. Bite me. That's what I have to say. Come and take them. Come and take them.
Presumably, Director Cheadle, the ubiquity of weapons, guns in America, especially assault weapons or semi-automatic weapons, that's helped your job and the mission of your agencies, right?
So, for those of you who are not familiar, all a semi-automatic weapon does is fire once per trigger pull. Technically, revolvers are also semi-automatic in regards to one pull, one fire, right? Fully automatic weapons, you need a special license for, or you have to pay an exorbitant amount of money for weapons that were made prior to like 1986. Obviously, those are limited. We're talking like $7,000 or nowadays closer to $20,000 for like an old.
Wow.
Yeah, an old gun that's full auto, right? Because average citizens, you can buy a full auto weapon, but it has to be prior to 1986. Something like that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So in order to get, like, let's say an Uzi, right? That was made before. I don't even know if they made Uzis in 86. I think they did. But let's just use that as an example. You'd have to pay a ridiculous amount of money to get that weapon. Or you have to go through all the stuff for federal firearms license, FFL. And in order to do that, it costs money and time and all of that. But if you go through all that, then you too can enjoy the benefits that the founders intended for you, which is the ability to go in your backyard and go, assuming you live in the county, and go,
I mean country.
county. No, the county, like LaPorte County.
Oh, okay.
If you live in the county, the country, whatever, if you live out of the city limits.
Okay, that's what, yeah.
Because Michigan City, there's like $100 fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you fire a weapon in the city, I think it's like $100 fine. Of course, the left is pushing for there to be much, much greater penalties, but this entire argument is stupid.
It's made it less complicated. Isn't that true?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
Right.
Real simple. More guns, especially dangerous ones, have made your job protecting people easier. Is that not right?
What?
I think from every
Director Cheater, this is simple English. More guns, do they make your job more complicated or less complicated in protecting these 36 clients and visiting heads of state and heads of government that come to Washington?
I think the Secret Service needs to take into account.
I didn't ask that.
They're in.
I'm sorry. I asked a simple question, which deserves a simple answer. The ubiquity of guns, dangerous weapons in America, like AR-15s, has that made your job, that is to say the mission of the Secret Service, easier or more difficult?
Remember, too, this is the same party that buy a shotgun.
I
They
think the
wanted a
threat
political
environment for protecting
moment.
our Secret Service protectees is always difficult, and that's dynamic, and it's always evolving.
And in case you hadn't noticed, like, if you guys don't pay attention to international news, you don't have to have guns to hurt and kill people.
No.
I worked at a prison. I saw it all the time. There were no guns behind the wall.
They wanted the talking point
Oh,
that
yeah,
the Secret
absolutely.
Service director even believes that we should take away the guns.
Oh, of course they do.
Stipulate it's
That's what
always
he's trying to
the
do.
end.
I know, that's what he's trying to
Again,
do.
this is a simple one. Does the ubiquity of guns make your job easier or more difficult today?
I understand the Second Amendment rights of individuals.
I didn't ask that question. I'm not questioning the Second Amendment. I'm asking.
Yes, you are.
Uh-huh.
You traitor. If you swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. Guess what, dipshit? The Second Amendment is part of the Constitution of the United States. As a matter of fact, I believe anytime these people try to institute laws to override your protected ability to defend yourself, they should be tried for treason. Like, I'm just going to go full spicy because we've seen it far too often. You give them an inch, they take a mile. You give them, okay, all right, yeah, we'll put serial numbers on them. Like, now you can't have suppressors. Suppressors they're not silencers, you idiotic. All they do is make it to where you can fire the weapon without having to wear big ass ear protectors.
Okay, that's what that is.
That's all it does. We were at, so my son and I went to the range, right? And there was a guy there who had a suppressor, and it was legal, and it had the stamp, and you crybabies. But obviously, we had our weapon, which was very loud, and his weapon, which had a suppressor on it. Could you still hear it? Damn right you could still hear it. But it was pop, pop, pop instead of bang, bang, bang.
I see.
You didn't have to have the big-ass ear protectors on in order to enjoy a hobby.
I see.
Asking a simple analysis, Director Cheadle.
Traitor.
I can tell you, you're not making my job easier in terms of assessing your qualification for continuing on as director. Please answer the question. You're the head of the Secret Service. You're speaking on behalf of 8,000 members who put their lives on the line. We just had a failure by your own admission. Do guns make your job easier or harder?
I think the job of the Secret Service is difficult on every day, and we need to make sure that we are mitigating all threats, whether that be
That
weapons,
isn't my question.
personnel.
That is not my question. And now I think you're evading the answer, which is not a hard one.
I give her
I'm
props
sorry
not
that you feel
giving
that
them
way,
the
sir.
soundbite.
How else could I
good for
feel,
her.
Director Cheadle, when you're clearly avoiding a direct answer to a very simple declarative question? We almost lost a presidential candidate the other day.
We did
A
almost.
20-year-old had
Yeah.
access to his father's AR-15 and got on top of a roof within 500 yards or feet of the.
I'm going to say this. Look, and I'm just going to lay it out. The problem isn't that a 20-year-old had access to a rifle. He could have gone and bought that rifle himself.
Uh-huh.
The problem is that there was a failure of security to secure the freaking perimeter.
Uh-huh.
Period. It doesn't have anything to do with who did or didn't have access to anything.
Podium, and I'm asking you, did the availability of that AR-15, which is replicated all across America, make your job harder or easier? And you're not willing to answer that question? And you think and you wonder why we might have.
Look, he's getting apoplectic, man. He's like,
he wants that soundbite.
he wants that soundbite so bad. You can see. I mean, he's like boing when he's talking about it. Like, look at him.
A lack of confidence in your continued ability to direct this agency?
I understand your question, and that's the environment.
Well, if you understand my question, why not answer it?
Because it's the environment that the Secret Service works in every day.
That doesn't tell me anything. That's the.
Yeah, you know what? To her credit, it actually does. What she is saying without coming out and saying it is, this is America. America has guns.
Mm-hmm.
That's the environment that we work in every day. You
Yeah.
know what? I have not been a huge fan of her answers up to this point. Or
This is the only
yeah.
good point.
The only time I've seen her actually say something that makes any degree of sense is, guess what? We live in America, and despite how badly this guy wants to take your guns away, it's not going to happen.
That's the environment we work in. I had an attack on my office a year ago. I know a little bit about violence too.
Okay.
He came to kill me. When he couldn't, he beat one of my staffers 8 times with a baseball bat on the head.
Okay. And what does that have to do with guns?
I'm not sure. I was wondering that too.
Amazingly enough, guess what? You just proved you don't need a gun to hurt someone. Congratulations.
Yeah, he inadvertently.
These people are genuinely stupid. They really are. They are freaking morons.
We live with the threat of violence. But a simple answer from the director of the Secret Service would be helpful. And
I'm sure it
sorry
would be
you've
to
chosen
you.
to evade it. I yield back. Chair Derek.
Yeah, what? Wow. I have never seen a more transparent attempt to get a soundbite that they could use in my life.
And that's why I wanted to show you.
Yeah. Holy cow, dude. It never ceases to amaze me how willing some of these people are to utilize every single thing that happens for their own benefit. All right, so our next clip is Grothman from Wisconsin.
Yep, Republican from Wisconsin.
All right, so here we go.
Recognize Mr. Grothman from Wisconsin.
Grothman.
Thank you. When this guy took the shots, he climbed a ladder to get on the roof, correct?
I'm unable to answer details of exactly how the individual accessed the roof at this time.
Oh my God, lady, everybody saw the ladder. There are pictures of the damn ladder everywhere. So what you're saying is, I'm not willing to admit that people put the ladder there, because that's another thing. So allegedly he drove like a Hyundai, right? And this wasn't like a folding ladder. This wasn't like the extension ladders. How the hell could he have fit that in his car? So yeah, basically she's not willing to admit that this whole thing was a setup.
Do you know when if he did use the ladder, do you know when the ladder was placed there? Was the ladder there 2 days before, just the night before? Do you have any information at all as to when the ladder got there?
I would like to be able to answer those questions. The FBI is still conducting an investigation.
How did the rifle get to the roof?
Again, sir, at this time, I'm unable to answer questions to provide
Have
clarity.
they cleaned the roof since since the assassination attempt?
Yep.
Have they cleaned the roof?
Right, has anything been done to the roof? Is it just like it was, whatever, 10 days ago or not? Has anything been done to the roof?
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay,
I do. I've seen the pictures of them spraying the roof off. Have you?
I have not.
Yeah. Look it up. There are pictures. Apparently, the slope is too much for Secret Service agents to protect the president, but it's not too steep to wash the roof off.
okay. Were President Trump's normal agents normally assigned to him there that day?
Yes.
There was no, these were the same
But
agents that were always there.
Remember earlier, she talked about how they borrow people from different departments. She just
Yep.
contradicted herself.
Yes, sir. The people that are assigned to his detail were working on that day.
Okay, there's stuff.
She was just caught in a lie.
Well, not only that, but it actually, so if you think about it like this, right? While they were there, they were assigned to his detail. So she technically said, yeah, the people who were assigned to his detail were working. You see how she can weasel her way through that? And she's slimy, dude. Like, I go back and look at that smirk again.
It says they were not there that day, but these are the same agents who are routinely there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we know which agents fired the shots that finally took down the potential assassin?
Yes, sir, I do.
Can you give us those names or background of those agents?
I would not offer their name up in this setting, but it was one of our technical officers, our counter snipers.
Okay, so can we privately get those names, the committee?
I am certain that we can make names available privately.
Okay, so once again, I'm just going to say this. There is no transparency in the American government anymore. None. Zero. I'll be surprised if she actually even provides it privately.
That's what I was.
We've all seen the picture of the person there. And so I have no way of knowing if this is accurate, right? But I have seen claims there is a post, right, that was allegedly posted by the counter sniper who took the shot.
Really?
That says he was ordered multiple times to stand down.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
He actually had seen this guy get up on the roof and told them, and they said, stand down. Don't shoot him. Don't shoot him. As a matter of fact, they still told him to stand down, and he took the shot and allegedly was questioned by the FBI and is now out of a job, or at minimum suspended. I don't know if that's accurate. If it is, then I hope that someone somewhere is able to show us the truth on that.
Hopefully he can testify in front of Congress.
That's what
That's
I'm
something
hoping.
Congress needs to know.
That's exactly why she doesn't want to give the name. Because she doesn't want him subpoenaed and testifying as to her orders to not take down the shooter. Because I'm betting that's what happened. Like I said, I didn't think this was necessarily a setup. I just thought it was a security failure until watching her in Congress. Watching her in Congress, I am unquestioningly convinced that this entire thing was a setup. Okay, our next clip is another Democrat. Yay! This one from our great state next door of Illinois. I know it's Illinois. For those of you from Illinois, you're going to twitch when you hear it. I do it on purpose. All right. So 11454.
He has a hard name to pronounce.
Okay. I'm going to try really hard. I'm going to move us up here so you can see this name, right? Representative Raja. I got that part. Krishnamurthy.
I think that's how you say it.
Krishnamurthy. He is a Democrat from Illinois. 8th District, here we go.
Director Cheadle, as you know, the shooter began shooting at 6:11 p.m. Eastern on July 13th. NBC reported that at 5:51 p.m., 20 minutes before the shooting began, the state police informed the Secret Service of their concern. Now, the rally was not paused at that point, correct?
No.
And according to NBC, just 2 minutes later, at 5:53 p.m., the Secret Service notified its snipers about the gunman. The rally wasn't paused at that point either, correct?
Oh.
No.
Let me show you some video footage by rally goers.
Video.
If you could play the video
Okay, here we
on
go.
the screen up here. This was taken 2 minutes before the shooting started. If you could
Look at
turn
that.
up the volume.
Criminals. We have criminals. We have violence. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much
She's
tougher
standing
than
up now.
it happens.
You went right on the roof we got.
Up here.
Ma'am, that doesn't look like suspicious behavior. That looks like threatening behavior to me.
Right. There's no other reason for some guy to climb up on a roof at a Trump rally. There's just not. That roof was unsecured, I believe, on purpose.
And the rally wasn't paused at that point either, correct?
I can tell you, as I stated earlier, sir, that the moment that the shift surrounding the president were aware of an actual threat.
That's a threat.
That is a
there.
threat.
The guy's on the roof and everybody's yelling at him.
Right.
And directing the officer's attention to him. The rally was not paused at that point, correct?
We are currently still combing through communications and when communications were passed.
Well, I can point you to this communication.
Right.
It's 2 minutes before the shots started ringing out. Director Cheadle, yes or no? Was there ever a moment where the Secret Service actually considered pausing the rally?
The Secret Service would have paused the rally had they known or been
So the
told
answer is
there was
no.
an actual threat.
The answer is no. Correct?
You know what? Good on him.
Yeah.
Good on him.
This was a really good questioning.
Wow.
With
Norwegian.
Yeah, sorry about that. There we go.
I can speak to you in generalities.
No, I don't want
I don't
generalities.
That's not
I want
generalities.
specifics.
Communications
The answer is no. You did not consider pausing the rally, correct?
The people that are in charge of protecting the president on that day would never bring the former president out if there was a threat that had been identified.
Well, they
did.
did because
Yeah.
we've now
They
identified
did.
3 points in the 20 minutes before the shooting that the threat emerged. Let me point you to something else,
Okay.
which is the building that the shooter was perched on, seen here. This building is called the AGR building. I'm sure that you're familiar with it. It's no more than 150 yards from the stage where Donald Trump stood, yet the security perimeter was drawn such that the AGR building was placed outside of it. Director Cheadle, according to the Washington Post, the AR-15 styled rifle used in the shooting had a range of 400 to 600 yards.
Yeah.
And therefore, the AGR building was clearly within rifle range of the stage, correct?
Yes.
NBC News has reported that in the days before the rally, the Secret Service had identified the building as a vulnerability that required special attention, correct?
That's reporting from NBC.
Yes.
So I am still looking into an active investigation.
I know, but it's been 9 days. I mean,
Yeah.
you should
Right.
know that, right? And yet, despite the fact that the AGR building was in rifle range of the stage and it was flagged as a vulnerability, this building was put outside of the Secret Service's security perimeter. And I respectfully submit the Secret Service must expand its security perimeter to account for the kinds of weapons that can be used outside the perimeter to endanger the protectees inside the perimeter, ma'am.
Mhm.
Let
That's
me
a fair
turn your
point.
attention to some conspiracy theories that have been circulating and ask you to comment on them. First, you have not found evidence that the incident was a staged shooting, right?
Correct.
And you haven't found evidence that this was a result of a conspiracy of high-ranking government officials, correct?
Correct.
And you have not found evidence that this incident was in fact directed or perpetrated by a foreign state or entity, right?
And that's the last question, but I'll let the director answer that, please.
Not at this time.
Thank you. I yield back.
Interestingly enough, the other answers were no, no, no. But by a foreign state was not at this time.
Uh-huh.
Just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
I noticed that too.
All right. Our next is Cloud. Yeah. Our
Yep,
next
from Texas.
questioner is Representative Cloud from Texas.
Gentleman's time's expired. Chair now recognizes Mr. Cloud from Texas.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm there was only one counter sniper who took one shot. Is that
We had multiple counter sniper teams available
yeah, on the
that day.
premises, but is only one took one shot? Is that correct, or only one?
Correct.
Okay. How many spent shell casings were found on the roof?
Again, I would have to defer you to the FBI's criminal investigation.
Okay. Word is that the car was rigged with explosives.
Again, sir, I'd
Sorry.
have to defer you
To
to
the
the
FBI.
FBI's investigation.
She's useless.
Okay. You're not curious about, you don't communicate with them? No. Okay. CNN reported that.
Right, which is such horseshit because she told us before that she's working with the FBI in a joint investigation to figure out what happened.
The Secret Service did not sweep the building. The shooter was used to shoot President Trump and other attendees. Is that true or false?
So we are conducting a mission insurance investigation and will depend on the information that we obtain from our investigations.
Okay. The Secret Service knew there was a suspicious person anywhere from 8 minutes before President walked on stage to 30 to 60 minutes. We have different reports. Was President Trump or his team notified of the threat?
I think there's a difference and a distinction between suspicious
person
and threat.
Yeah.
So we are.
Did you see that little undercurl of her lip there?
I did not.
Watch. So it would be the right side of her mouth. Once again, right? She's been very revealing with these mouth movements. Watch this.
Difference and a distinction between suspicious
person
and threat.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
It was almost like a smile, but quickly gotten under control. Now, maybe I'm just reading stuff into stuff. It's completely possible. But this is not the first time we've seen her mouth betray her real feelings.
And Trump has said that
So-
nobody told him.
Right. No, of course they didn't.
We are going back and looking at communications to know when the information about a suspicious person was passed to Secret Service personnel.
Okay. But was President Trump or his team notified?
Again, we are going back and looking to make sure that we have the.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. That's the end of this clip anyway. It's the same thing every time. We're going to go back and check. We're blah, 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 blah. Our next clip is from Mafum. I'm not sure how you say his name.
I'm not exactly, but I believe he's from Maryland.
Yeah, Maryland Democrat, 134-27.
Mfume from Maryland.
Mufe.
Mr. Chairman, I yield
Back it
back.
up 'cause I want to hear
Gentleman
his
yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. Mfume from
Mfume. I'm going to try to remember that. His name always throws me. Mfume from Maryland.
Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to commend you and the ranking member on your joint statement and for holding this hearing that we might all at least attempt to try to get some answers. Some of us, Ms. Cheadle, grew up in an era not too unlike what we see today in terms of political violence. And some of us remember the November 22nd, 1963 assassination of President Kennedy.
Yep.
Some of us, like myself, remember 2 days later when Jack Ruby on live TV shot and killed Lee Harvey Oswald. We've seen over and over.
Which was awfully damned convenient. That's all I'm going to say.
And over since that time, these kind of attempts, whether it was the assassination of Martin Luther King or Bobby Kennedy or the attempted.
I think the FBI killed King.
Martin Luther King, you said? Okay, yeah.
Yep. There is considerable evidence that the FBI was behind the assassination
Could
of Martin
be.
Luther King. Yeah.
I've heard that theory.
Yeah. I've seen some compelling evidence. Is it ironclad? Am I 100%? No, but I do believe that.
Attack on George Wallace in Laurel, Maryland, the shooting in 1981 of Ronald Reagan, our friend and colleague Steve Scalise shooting here in D.C., and the unfortunate attack on Paul Pelosi, and now this matter regarding former President Trump.
Although I will say, I think Paul Pelosi was a little different than the rest. Just saying. I don't know for sure, but it's certainly interesting how there was a degree of familiarity there between Mr. Pelosi and his attacker. Now, a lot of people have made a lot about allegedly individuals on the right celebrating his attack. I never celebrated his attack, nor would I ever.
No,
because I don't want anybody injured.
No.
Unless they're a pedophile, then they deserve to be injured. I have no proof he's a pedophile, so I don't want that for him. That said, I never celebrated it. I said, wow, this is messed up. There were some outlandish, wild claims about the connection between the two. Again, I like evidence. I didn't see any evidence of that. What I did see was the recording that showed a degree of familiarity between him and his attacker. He knew the attacker's name. It's not something you see in a political assassination type of situation. I'm that man. I'm that man.
Let me try, if I might, to take another walk at this. People just assume that whoever is in charge takes full responsibility when there's never been, at least on this magnitude and scale, this sort of failure. So when members ask you, are you going to resign, and you say you have no intention to, they are perplexed, like many people who watch what's going on. And
I'll say this, the nerve, the sheer nerve of to allow this to happen right on your watch, and then to go in front of Congress and say, no, I have no intention of resigning. What? The chutzpah there is unparalleled, man. Wow. Yes, she did eventually resign, but many of us believe that it wasn't like her choice, but the severe political pressure that was put on our representatives, our senators, our so-called elected leaders, because people were flooding phones demanding her resignation. So good job on you. The democratic process actually maybe kind of worked once.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things I just don't understand. Why was the building, the ARG building, placed outside of the perimeter when clearly it was close enough for someone to launch an attack?
So again, sir, we are looking into all of the details of how the advanced was comprised, but I can tell you that there was overwatch on that building provided that day.
By a drone?
I'm not going to get into the specifics of technology or assets that were used in
Well,
this forum.
I think it's fair to say the overwatch failed because the shooter got up on the roof and stayed there for a while, and people had pointed him out. So do you think that your overwatch was a failure in that case?
I think that we need to know the full details to understand how this occurred.
And why was the rooftop left naked to begin with? Can you tell us that, considering it was within the line of sight and so very close?
Again, I can't speak
Here
to
it
the
comes.
specifics of this particular event site, but what I can tell you is that when the Secret Service develops an advanced plan, they take into account a number of factors when they're building their advance. If there are buildings or areas of concern, and overwatch is one of those mitigations that they want to put in place, then they will cover off areas of responsibility.
I understand that, but
Okay, hold on. Reading between the lines here for a moment. I think what she's trying to say is that there is a particular individual who decided not to include that building or not to extend the perimeter or whatever, right? Now, whether that was her, ultimately, yes, it's her responsibility. Anyway, but she's gone. So who was the individual whose decision it was to include or exclude that building from the perimeter?
Good question.
That's what I want to know. Unfortunately, she refuses to give any names, any information, anything.
the shooter came to the attention of your agency.
What? Just out of curiosity, this is completely off topic, but like, if you see her nose, right? I think it's a mole, but like I've seen moles like that, and I'm not making fun of her appearance, so don't think that I'm going that way because I'm not. I've seen people with those like before, at the edge of their nose, but they never look like on her face. She's got it's not like mine, right? I got a big mole right here, but it's a different color. The ones by the nose always seem to be the same color as the skin. Have you ever noticed that?
I haven't.
It's like you don't see like a dark mole like this, right? My massive mole I got on my face. I don't see them dark like that when they're right next to the nose right there. It's just anyway.
2 minutes before the former president got to the
He's
stage.
like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Did anybody get assigned to watch or cover that individual? who had
It's okay. I
already
wasn't thinking
been
that.
seen with a advanced finder on him and other suspicious matters. Was anybody assigned to track him?
So what I'd like to clarify is that a suspicious individual
I got that part.
was
It's not
brought
a threat.
to the attention
I know.
of our personnel. And again, having a rangefinder at an outdoor event.
Well, let me ask you this. When the suspicious person was brought to the attention of the Secret Service, was anybody in the detail ordered to follow and stay with that suspicious person just because they might become a threat?
So we have a number of teams that are on the ground. And again, we are trying to verify the timelines of when those notifications were made to our personnel so that they could assume the responsibility of trying to track that individual.
I'll say this. I have never in my life seen a more ineffectual investigation if she doesn't have any answers by now, because allegedly we're still trying to figure out the timeline. We're still trying to look at the evidence. We're still trying. 9 days later, you can't tell us when they were notified about a suspicious person. You damn sure should resign because you are worthless. Unreal, man. And obviously, the reality is that she knows. She just doesn't want to say.
Ms. Cheadle, there has been a lot of discussion, some of which raised itself earlier in this hearing about poor staff morale within your agency. And I have the July 17th report of Government Executive, which is a credible reporting service for the federal government for employees. And the 2023 ranking of places to work within the federal government showed, and this is through the Office of Personnel Management, that the Secret Service came in 413th out of 459 sub-agencies. And
Holy crap, dude.
Yeah.
That's stunning.
Yeah. That's why I kept this clip. Yeah.
That is horrible.
Uh-huh.
Agencies. Can you explain that?
Certainly. What I can tell you is the Secret Service is a difficult job. It challenges our employees daily.
No. That's bull, because people know what the Secret Service is before they work there. You know exactly what to a degree, you know exactly what you're getting into as far as like what your job's going to be. Your job is to protect dignitaries, presidents, like that's
former
the
presidents.
job, right? The fact that that they are ranked so low means that it is such a toxic work environment.
Yeah.
Holidays, it's weekends, it's no leave periods.
But madam, people come to work knowing that.
Thank you.
You do explain that when you hire somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
It's the same with other agencies. They miss holidays. They come
Yeah.
to work at odd hours. But to be one of the worst places to work within the federal government, 413 out of 459?
Wow.
Yeah.
I just need an explanation. What do you think as the director there?
I think that this
And that's the last question, but please answer Mr. Infobay's question.
I think that this is a challenging job. I think that it's a challenging environment to be in law enforcement, and we do have a no-fail mission. And our folks are tasked with that every day, 365 days of the year.
Once again,
but I can
no.
tell you, I've also taken a number of measures since I have been the director to recruit and retain and stem the tide of attrition in our agency, which will hopefully alleviate some of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's only become worse since she took over. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. But that's so crazy, man, how far down the list they are for places people want to work. That's nuts. All right. So our next clip, we only got a couple more. We're almost done. We have three. We got three more clips to show you, all fairly brief. So our next one it's a combination of three people. It is Sessions, AOC, our favorite bartender, and Comer. I don't know why.
You'll see.
What we will see, I am sure. So 143.10.
There's Sessions.
There we go. All right, here we go. You ready? Buckle up.
Do you see where there was something that went wrong as a professional at an agency with 28 years, or do you have to count on someone else to give you the final report?
Ooh, good question.
I see that something went wrong, and I've acknowledged that something went
Then
wrong.
what went wrong?
I
Was
need
the
to-
special agent in charge not doing their job? Was the shooter was the shooter given extra time? Was the sniper doing their job? I mean, these are things that people who've been around for 28 years can analyze quickly. I watched it live on TV, and then within minutes saw a number of facts and factors that would have and should have been known by people who were there. You've got 28 years. You're showing up here telling us and the American public, well, I've got to wait for the final answer. What is your evaluation?
I'm asking those same questions.
Well, no, you're before the
And I
committee. Tell us what went wrong. A special agent in charge, the person who was there. Tell us, and don't try and play a shell game with us. Do you have the ability to effectively, as the director of this agency, to understand what went wrong and at least tell us, I do or don't know what I'm doing? And we come away with,
Right.
and I'm not asking for you to resign. I'm asking for you, if you've got this experience, then you should be able to say to us, we know what we did wrong. It was a failure in our system, and we're immediately making these corrections. That's why you're having a difficult time with this group of members of Congress, because we saw it too. We've seen the things, but you are the 28-year expert. You are the person that, and only you, that can make the changes. And I hear you say, well, I've got to wait for a final report before I, at 28 years experience. That is why we think what you're doing, the answers you're giving us are not correct, and you are not using your professional expertise. Mr. Chairman, I will allow her to respond.
I am
Good
asking
question.
those same questions, sir.
Jesus.
And I assure you, when I have a full and complete report of exactly what happened, there will be accountability, and we will make changes.
But before I recognize the question, just out of curiosity, Director, it's been 9 days.
Right.
Every American wants these questions answered. Do you have a ballpark estimate of what Mr. Sessions asked you would be able to answer
So I can tell
time-wise?
I can tell you on our mission assurance, internal investigation, we are targeting to have that completed within 60 days. There's also an external
60
investigation
days.
that is going to be taking place. There are a number of Office of Inspector General investigations as well, and we are working in concert. And then, of course, there is the Department of Justice, FBI, criminal investigation.
Sure.
Okay. Look, I understand that. I do. I understand that proper investigations take time. I understand that. And yeah, it might take 60 days to have a complete understanding of everybody that deserves to be fired. However, there's no way it takes 60 days to provide answers. It's been 10 days, 9 days.
She
There's
knows
no
stuff.
Oh my God. She knows so much, but she's refusing to answer. It's ridiculous.
All right,
Chair
here's AOC.
recognizes Ms. Ocasio-Cortez from New York.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Cheadle, respectfully, what you had just laid out about 60 days. We are currently in the midst of an especially concentrated presidential campaign in the moment. That is also paired with, of course, elections happening across the country. They're happening in about 100 days. So the notion of a report coming out in 60 days when the threat environment is so high in the United States, irrespective of party, is not acceptable.
Uh-huh.
And I think
I
it's
agree.
very important to understand that.
Yeah,
This
she
is
made
not
sense.
She
theater.
made
This is not about
2 points on
jockeying.
this.
This is about the safety of some of the most highly targeted and valued targets internationally and domestically in the United States of America. So the idea that a report will be finalized in 60 days, let alone prior to any actionable decisions that would be made, is simply not acceptable. It has been 10 days since an assassination attempt on a former president of the United States.
God help me, AOC makes sense. I told you we're living in clown world. There's no way this is reality when AOC makes sense.
Regardless of party, there need to be answers.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this party, this committee, this is not a moment of theater. We have to make policy decisions, and we have to make them now. We do, and that may be and that may require legislation. That may require policy that we must pass in the immediate term. And without that, we are flying blind. So the lack of answers and the lack of report is just simply not something that we can accept here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. AOC made some sense.
Uh-huh.
God help us all. Okay, so the second to last clip. I know it's been a long one, but this how long was the total?
For the whole hearing?
Yep.
It was like 4 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah, so almost 5 hours
Yeah.
long.
And
So,
100 members of Congress actually spoke.
see, so yeah. Our next one is at 2:09:12. After the stupid ad. There we go. Now this is a clip that I'm sure you've seen.
Okay, it's Mace.
Yes, it is Representative. What's her first name?
Nancy.
Nancy. I thought so. Nancy Mace from South Carolina. Holy crap! What a rock star! Oh my goodness, she nails it.
Here we go.
Oh. It'd help if I unmute it. Sorry about that.
Well, the American. As Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Cheadle, the American people are watching, and they're wondering if there are any questions you can answer honestly today. So, Director Cheadle, I have a series of questions, very specific questions. I want very specific answers. Most of my questions are going to demand a yes or no answer. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay, my first question. Both sides of the aisle today have asked for your resignation. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter, yes or no?
No, thank you.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question, yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible.
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure, yes or no?
Yes.
Was this tragedy preventable, yes or no?
Yes.
Has the Secret Service been transparent with this committee?
Yes.
Would you say the fact that we had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today as being transparent, yes or no?
I have always been
Yes
eager to
or no?
come
You didn't
and
want to
talk
answer
to
the
committee.
question. We had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today. That is not transparent, by the way.
It's not.
You stated earlier, Secret Service is not political. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say leaking your opening statement to Punchbowl News, Politico's Playbook, and Washington Post several hours before you sent it to this committee as being political? Yes or no?
I have no idea how my statement got out.
Yeah, right.
That's bullshit. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record articles by Punchbowl News, Political Playbook, Washington Post, all done at 5:24 a.m., 6:12 a.m., 6:34 a.m., a solid 3 to 4 hours before this committee got your statement.
Without objection to ordered.
Okay.
Awfully convenient.
Is the Secret Service fully cooperating with our committee?
Yes.
Okay, you say you're fully cooperating with this committee. On July 15th, this committee sent you a list of demands of information that we wanted. Has the Secret Service provided this committee a complete list of all law enforcement personnel that were there that day? Have you done that? Have you provided a list to the Oversight Committee? Yes or
I
no?
will have to get back to you on that.
That is a no. Have you
No.
provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th? Yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
Mr. Chairman.
Completely
Mr.
dishonest.
Chairman.
Now you're going to hear in the background they're going to whine about decorum, right?
Yep.
Now normally
Yes.
I agree decorum needs to be maintained on the floor. However, in this circumstance, in my opinion, she is every bit the right to say the words that she's saying because this entire thing was a farce.
Chairman, I want to,
Mr. I'm
Come
gonna
on.
we have to
continue.
maintain decorum in this committee, no matter
Have
how
you provided
upset we
any
get.
and all memos to this committee that we've asked you on July 15th? Have you provided all memorandums within the Secret Service?
I would have to get back to you on
That is a no. You are being dishonest or lying. Like you're
Yeah.
being dishonest here with this committee. These are important questions that the American people want answers to, and you're just dodging and talking around it in generalities. And we had to subpoena you to be here, and you won't even answer the questions. We have asked you repeatedly to answer our questions. This isn't hard.
No.
These are not hard questions. Have you provided us all communications from the Secret Service related to that day and that rally? Have you provided this committee? We've asked for this information on July 15th. Have you provided any of this information that this committee has asked of the Secret Service? Any of it?
I'll have to get back to you. on
Have
that.
you even read this letter that we sent you? Did you even read this?
Yes.
Okay. And you have said you don't know, you have no idea. Well, the answer is no. We haven't gotten a single document or piece of information or data from you or your agency in related to the rally that we have asked you for. So was this attempted assassination of Donald Trump a failure of training or execution or both?
I think that those are answers that we need to
Training,
examine.
execution, or both? Which one?
I think those are answers.
All
we
right.
need
How
to
many
determine.
Secret Service personnel have lost their jobs due to this colossal failure?
At this time, none.
How many Secret Service personnel have been required to take a refresher course on how not to let people shoot Donald Trump?
Our personnel are currently operational. We are examining the facts of this investigation, and we will make the changes necessary.
What time did law enforcement become aware that there was an individual on the roof with a clear line of sight to President Trump?
I am still verifying timelines.
Of course, 9 days in, you have no answers. How many minutes went by between the time law enforcement saw and took photos of crooks and the shooting? How many minutes?
I am still verifying timelines.
57 minutes.
Wow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields.
Wow.
57 minutes from the time they initially reported a suspicious individual, right? Till the shot rang out. The shots rang out. Unbelievable, dude. They had an hour to do something about him and did nothing. It's all right. Our last clip for the evening is from Representative Fallon from Texas, 23202. And the reason there's not more is A, to make this shorter, and B, because she doesn't answer the damn questions.
Nope.
From Texas.
How did a 20-year-old loner with a week's notice pick the absolute best location to assassinate President Trump when the entire Secret Service missed it?
That's a good question.
Director Cheadle, in your leadership, your agency got outsmarted and outmaneuvered by a 20-year-old. How can we have any confidence that you could stop a trained professionals from a nefarious nation state?
Those are absolutely questions that we need to have.
I know they're
answers
questions,
to.
but the fact of the matter is we can't have that confidence. Director, do you have the ability personally, and you have the
Those are absolutely questions.
Well,
and then
yeah.
she followed up with that we need the answers to.
authority to beef up security of any of your confidence? Director, do you have the ability personally, and do you have the authority to beef up security of any of your protectees?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So were you also aware there was a credible threat President Trump was facing? He was facing a heightened security threat to a foreign adversary?
Yes.
So given that there was an increased threat to President Trump's life, Was he provided a full security complement akin to what a sitting U.S. president would receive?
He was provided a full complement of security based on the threat assessment that we had
That's not my
and
question.
the venue.
My question is, if
Okay. Coming up is something that I want you guys to listen very, very closely to, and then I want to show you something.
if he'd been the sitting president, would he have had the same security he had on July 13th, or would have been beefed up?
There is a difference between the
So
sitting
he did.
president
So your answer is he didn't.
and continuity of government and the
So
responsibility
he
that we
did
have.
not. Okay, there wasn't a CAT team.
Continuity of government, right? So there has been a lot of claims, there have been many claims that Donald Trump is involved in a continuity of government type restructuring of the United States. Now, I did find her statement interesting, but we'll finish this because it's almost over. I think. Yep, we've got a couple more minutes, and then I want to show you something else that I found very interesting that may explain an innocent explanation for the words that she used. That doesn't necessarily mean what people are jumping to conclusions that it means.
Full CAT team on site. There wasn't counter surveillance teams on site. But this is the thing. You just said you had the ability to beef up the security. You knew about the threat, and you didn't. And that's as telling as it is chilling.
Yeah.
We have satellite images from the Butler Fairgrounds. Have you visited the site?
No, I have not.
9 days and you have not visited the site. You should have been there that night.
Yeah.
Did you talk to that evening? Did you talk to the team, the heroes that surrounded the president? Did you call them that night?
They were still operational work.
So that's an answer is no. Did you call them the next day?
President. Yes, I spoke with
You called them the very next day, not the day of, or was it 72 hours after?
I don't know the timeline, but I spoke with
Okay,
them
because you're under oath.
immediately
I
following.
think it was 72 hours after. You waited 3 days.
3
What is
days?
immediately clear is that there are a number of
Wait a minute. She waited 3 days to contact the agents that were on site?
Allegedly, yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts, dude. This was planned. This was planned because if something like this happens and you don't expect it, as the head person in charge, you're going to be like, yo, my office now.
Uh-huh. At least the day after.
At minimum, okay, they're working. Give them a little bit of time to finish, get him to safety, whatever.
And then it was night.
Yeah, and then, okay, it's nighttime. The next day.
The next day, she should have.
Yeah, my office now. 3 days, 72 hours? Dude, oh my God.
structures that need to be secured. Of these what is immediately
So
clear
let's look at this. Okay, so here's the stage right here. It's only 400 feet to there. That's a fairly easy shot. I'm just going to say it's a fairly, especially individuals with any kind of practice on the range.
And they said he went to the range the day before.
Yeah, if you have any practice, you sight that rifle in. 400 feet is not hard.
No.
With any kind of magnification, any kind of accurate rifle, 400-foot shot is not.
Trump is lucky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
there are a number of structures that need to be secured. Of these, Director, other than the first, immediate 4, what's the most dangerous site that should have been secured? Because security 101, you got to mitigate the high ground.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what the next most dangerous site? What was the closest structure to the president, other than the 4 immediate ones that you had your counter sniper teams on?
There are a number of structures around that event site.
You know who the shooter?
Yeah.
The shooter has visited the site 2 more times than you have, and he had a drone, and he picked the AGR building. So you said, do you remember in an ABC interview you did that you didn't have people on the roof of the AGR building because you were worried about safety because of the slope?
I recall that statement.
Okay. Does the Secret Service have written policy you can share with us about slope roofs?
No.
Okay. So why'd you act like there was one? Because is it your practice to comment on enormous events of enormous national implications when you're ignorant of the facts? That's rhetorical. So here's this thing with the slopes. You go all up to like 1812. You can go to a 112, which is about as flat as you can get without it being completely flat. and you're saying that there was a danger, safety concern there. But the problem is, Director, you put your counter snipers on a 312 roof, which is steeper than the 112. And by the way, the 112 is ADA compliant. You can build a ramp for a wheelchair on a 112 roof.
Yeah, on a 112.
So these are nothing but pathetic excuses, and they make no sense, and they're a bunch of cow dung. All the law enforcement I've spoken with over the last 9 days are amazed that the AGR rooftop was not secure.
Yeah.
You want to know why? Because it's dangerous.
Yeah.
I have never had any long gun training in my life. I own an AR-15, and last time I shot it one time my whole life. It was 6 years ago. That is until Saturday, where we recreated the events in Savoy, Texas. We recreated what happened in Butler. I was lying prone on a sloped roof at 130 yards at 6:30 at night. And I knew that he had a scope. I didn't know what kind, red dot or magnified. So I shot 8 rounds from both. You know what the result was? 15 out of 16 kill shots.
Yeah.
The one I missed would have hit the president's ear. That's a 94% success rate. And that shooter was a better shot than me.
Yeah.
It is a miracle President Trump wasn't killed. Corey Comparatore's life is over because that damn shooter made it on the roof. And it wasn't the roof that was dangerous. It was a nut job on top of the roof.
Yep.
You know what else is dangerous? I believe your horrifying ineptitude and your lack of skilled leadership is a disgrace. Your obfuscating today is shameful. And you should be fired immediately and go back to Garden Doritos. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
That sums it up, dude. That is a perfect ending.
Uh-huh.
It really is. Former PepsiCo security somehow believes. Here's the thing, right? Maybe she was a Secret Service agent for 2 decades. That's what she claims. Almost 20 years or 30 years or whatever the hell she claims.
27 years, I think she said.
Okay, great. But just because, like, for example, right? I worked at Indiana State Prison as a correctional officer, right? Even if I worked there 20 years, I wouldn't automatically be able to run the place.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things you need to know in the broader scheme as leadership, right? This and it shows in front of Congress the lack of replies, the lack of answers, the lack of accountability is disgusting. And I agree with Fallon. It is an absolute miracle that Trump didn't get killed. Absolute miracle. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the former director of the Secret Service testifying in a congressional hearing. And I don't think any of us got the answers that we wanted from there.
Today, the police were the ones to testify in front of the House Foreign Affairs Committee or Homeland Security Committee.
Okay, and that was the local police that had secured the site.
And then
right?
tomorrow, the FBI director is going to
Okay.
testify tomorrow.
Okay, so our next show is going to be
Friday.
Tune in at 7 p.m. and we're going to break down the police interview.
Yeah.
Or not interview, the testifying, the hearing in front of Congress.
And then I don't know when you were going to broadcast the one with them doing the FBI director.
Yeah, we're going to try to see if we can get that done quickly too. When's the FBI hearing?
Oh, the actual hearing is tomorrow.
For the police.
Oh, the police was today.
That was today. Tomorrow's FBI. We're going to see if we can squeeze them both in, maybe.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, we're going to try it because this is important. This is probably one of the most important things that happened in our lifetime. It's major. And in my opinion, shakes the entire foundation of the government. These supposed agencies that are supposed to be doing their jobs, it's an absolute failure. Absolute failure. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. We're going to have some more fun stuff coming up for you real soon. And God bless you. God bless Indiana. God bless the United States of America. And God bless President Trump and the families of the victims that were killed and injured during the rally. I hope you have a wonderful evening. We'll see you again real soon. Good night.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Sean Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2024. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.